few things. First of all, the good news, Kingston is getting a solid comprehensive plan and zoning update based upon the folks you've got as finalists. I think the good news is that you'll get a good product from any one of the groups that you're interviewing. And sort of the bad news, this isn't going to solve all of the city's problems. One of the things we see with comprehensive plans, I know this is a little disappointing, but I thought I'd bring it right up front. That one of the problems with the word comprehensive and comprehensive plan really makes people think this is it, this is the thing that we need to do to solve everything that's wrong with our community and to make everything wonderful. And there are a lot of good things that have come out of this, but one of the important things is to maintain perspective about what's possible, what we can do, and what may be beyond this. But there is a great opportunity to take on the big strategic issues related to development and preservation of Kingston. And that's the opportunity here, and that's what we're very excited about. And the idea here, which we've talked about in our proposal, is the notion of a plan that brings Kingston together. And what we'll talk about is the opportunity here is to use this process to address issues related to Kingston and the various opportunities and create a greater whole for the city from the parts that exist now. So we'll talk a bit about who we are, our approach to comprehensive planning into Kingston in particular, just run through the scope of work and then really have a discussion. I think what we'd like to do generally is, if people have questions along the way, just jump right in. Having that kind of interaction really produces the best kind of understanding of who we are, and also for us, what your problems are. So who we are, some of the things that we feel we're particularly good at is outreach, analysis, and urban design. Fairweather Consulting, we're community planners, economic developers, strategic planners. We have extensive experience in Ulster County and Kingston. You can see in this little map here, the land use planning that we've done, the communities are in green. Hamlet and Main Street work is in orange. Economic development and other work is in blue. So we're fairly familiar with the area. Have done work in and around Kingston, including work on the reviewing the landing project, doing feasibility study for passenger ferry service, and so on. We also have capacities in cutting-edge analysis and creative community outreach. We've done a variety of projects, again, in terms of analysis. The ferry feasibility study is one. We've done community outreach in a wide variety of neighborhoods and communities, from rural areas in western New York to neighborhoods in Pittsburgh and Syracuse. And we feel are particularly skilled at dealing with issues of understanding neighborhood values, understanding existing tensions, and identifying ways in which those can be brought to the front and addressed in the planning process. Steve, do you want to talk about Star Lighthouse a bit?
Star Lighthouse is a landscape architecture and planning firm. Me and my partner, Laura Starr, have been working together for close to 20 years. Star Lighthouse has been around for 7. We do landscape architecture, planning, and urban design, streetscapes, districts, parks in New York, around New York, some internationally. We're currently working projects here, the Battery Box on the left, which is right where you get the Statue of Liberty Ferry, won a National Waterfront Award, a plan for redevelopment, housing, park redevelopment in Brooklyn on Kiwanis Green, and new plaza programs in Manhattan. We're currently doing some parks in Jerusalem, a park that, believe it or not, has gazelles and people, natural herd of gazelles in the middle of one of the world's most ancient cities. I've worked across New York State, not previously done a project in Kingston, but very excited for the opportunity to be here. I also have a house in upstate New York, about 30 miles directly east of here. So we'll talk a bit about our approach. And again, this idea of a plan that brings Kingston together, first of all, physically, to look at what's the role of Midtown, the waterfront, the residential areas. How do each of these districts and neighborhoods relate to each other? Because the idea here is, at the end of the day, the comprehensive plan should create a coherent view about what Kingston is. Not only what is Kingston, but how can Kingston be the best Kingston
what they do, and how they can relate to one another. But it's also social. Not only do we talk about bringing the city together in terms of the different physical pieces, but also the different groups and their values, and how do we build a common vision for the future, and how do we get a plan that can realize this vision. And we feel that that's kind of the central task here, is to bring the city together in those two ways, and to use our expertise to help the community do that. Our approach, the city is shaped by ongoing forces. In a sense, a plan shouldn't be just a diagram on a piece of paper. It really needs to address the history, the economics, the demographics, the culture, and the environment, and those forces that are at work, and make sure that as we put the plan together, that the planning and zoning set a direction by understanding and responding to those forces. This shouldn't be just about pretty pictures or about nice designs. It should be, what are the economic opportunities? How do we respond to them? What is the role that history has played in Kingston? And for example, the role of Midtown and the location of this building, and the fact that this city was put together from two communities, and the residue of that is still found in the city. The fact that there are these two separate districts in Midtown is somehow between them, and the relationship between those has never really been fully defined. So the idea is the plan sets the community-wide vision and aspiration. The zoning update ensures that the regulations and procedures support that vision. So there's two things at work: setting the vision, engaging the community with a widespread dialogue about who are we, what do we want to be when we grow up, what are the opportunities that we're facing, and how does all this come into a shared vision about what the city is. And then secondly, the second part of this process is how do we put the regulations together so that the rules of the game, so to speak, reinforce and strengthen the vision that's articulated, to make sure that one leads into the other. Because in our practice, we've seen a number of situations where you have, in many communities, plans that are really inspiring and visionary, but then when you look at the zoning, there's just no connection. So the opportunity here is to build the vision and then make sure the regulations are in place that reinforce it. And as part of that, Steve, if you could just talk about, for example, how you look at places and zoning and those kinds of issues.
We often start with a very close examination of physical places, and try to understand physical function, character, and use. We depend a lot upon feedback from the community. We can come in as outside people, and it doesn't matter whether I'm working in New York City or working in any other community. We come in as outside people. We have a professional viewpoint. We see similarities and differences, but we will never have the sort of anecdotal, on-the-ground information about how these places work of the people who live there. So we count an awful lot on that sort of lived experience of the people who are responding to the plan. And then we try to analyze both the operational and the market capacity within a space. Looking at the commercial spaces, looking at the life of the street. In the case on the left here, that's a use diagram of one block on the Lower East Side. It has 15 arts organizations. We did a streetscape plan for them. And we try to, in each case, to find, not come in with a generic solution, but to identify particular solutions that express the character of the place. The Kingston zoning, first it's an observation. Your zoning is complicated. It's grown by accretion. You have sort of Euclidean zones, the older portion. You have special districts. You have design guidelines. You have overlays. That's an observation, not a conclusion. It may be working well. It may be recognizing the character of different places, but it's something I would want to learn more about as a consultant, and something I'd like to talk to people here about how that's working. It can lead to complexity in interpretation and administration, and sometimes that can lead to discouraging or not encouraging the right kind of investment participation in the community. So on the plus side, I look around Kingston and I see notable successes in shaping development and preserving the capacities that are supported by zones. So it's certainly not a question of removing things wholesale, but learning what's going on and trying trying to make it work to support the vision of the town. These questions: does the zoning reinforce community character? Does it promote investment? And does it promote clear interpretation? Both for the citizens, the elected leaders, and the committee people and the departments, and for the people who want to do something with their home, with their new business, and want to come before the city to invest their future. So, in the Rondout District, we certainly have contextually appropriate development. We have street character and street conditions, unusual project that was done there, commendable project. The Stockade District, extraordinarily unusual district within New York State, and very valuable. One thing we notice in the Midtown District, these are what are called figure ground diagrams, where black are buildings. Stockade District on the left, sort of a very active portion of the Midtown District on the right, see the difference in density between them. In the case of, on the right, most of what is not building is vehicular space. The Rondout District has a somewhat similar density pattern, but a lot of the white spaces are, in fact, green. They're not all taken by parking. So there are some good questions here as I look quickly at the zoning. You have high parking requirements. You have parking requirements that, in terms of cars per apartments, cars per retail space, cars per retail space, other things of this nature. The point is that I don't believe your zoning as it's in place today with its parking requirements can build the community that you have. It builds the community you see outside Kingston in terms of the sort of the standard. That's my gut sense of it in terms of just how that works out. So there is a battle in almost every project fitting in the parking, then why doesn't this look like Kingston? That's my quick sense of it. And then the second question is, particularly in Midtown District, are you overzoned for retail? This historic Main Street district here, shops every front. The bulk of your big retail, well, Kingston still functions in many ways as a regional center of a large neighborhood. Your regional retail is out of town. And you're not going to get the Lowe's and the Staples and all those things. They're set where they are for the next 15, 20, 30 years. Does that provide the opportunity to rethink some of your ground floor zoning, some of your district zoning here? It is not going to be that central, not going to be as continuous and large a central retail district portion of Kingston. And what does that mean to the comprehensive plan?
So we maybe kind of prematurely dove into the weeds there in terms of thinking about zoning, but the idea is what we're trying to do here is to give you a sense of what the issues are likely to be and how we think about situations like this and how thinking about the big issues in terms of planning will translate into considerations about zoning and how it should be reworked and restructured. What I'd like to now is just walk through the scope of work quickly and give you some thoughts about how we'll approach this, some things you might want to consider moving forward as well. The first task is developing the plan itself. We'll start with the project initiation, confirming the scope, getting the public outreach portions worked out, for example, putting together a website. The platform we typically use is name.com, which is a social networking site where we can have documents up there. People can join, become members, comment on what they see. We can schedule meetings. If we get enough people, because every community is different, if we have enough people that are members, like for example, this is for the city of Canandaigua, some work we're doing there now. I think there are like 60 some odd people that are members. We can send an email blast saying, all right, there's going to be a meeting next Tuesday, and everybody gets an invite and can respond to say, yes, I can attend it. This is not a good time for me, or make sure when you're talking about this topic to address this kind of issue. So we'll be establishing that. The inventory of the existing conditions, and a lot of that will be reviewing previous work. This is a city that's really done a lot of studying and thinking about itself over the years. And I think that's good, and there's no need to reinvent a lot of that. That we can look at the previous plan, the local waterfront revitalization plan, a whole host going on in Kingston, and how should we respond. The other part of this, of the existing conditions, is also getting a sense of the community values and where the people want to go, and that's going to be an important part of this. We're also going to do our own data and spatial analysis to have an understanding of current conditions, to see what's new in terms of demographics, cultural issues, environmental issues, land use, and so on. And, these are examples of work we've done elsewhere. Canandaigua, we're identifying major, large, underutilized parcels in the city for their economic development strategy. This is actually the city of Kingston, a map we just did on showing occupied households by type, owners versus renters. The owners are in, owner-occupied is red, the renter-occupied is in blue, so you can get a sense of that. And we'll start to look at those and see how those have changed. One of the good news about this in terms of timing is, the census has just been completed, so although it's already 2 years old, it's still relatively new, and it's the best source of detailed data about the city and its environment. So we will certainly use that. And then also public information and engagement initiatives. This is something we really think is vitally important. It's important to meet with stakeholders, to sit down with community groups, get a sense of what's on their minds, what their issues are, what their experience of Kingston is. That's one of the advantages of us. I'm writing New Paltz. It's 20 minutes to get here. And we try to do as many meetings as feasible. We want them well attended, we want them useful. But the more information we can get about what's on people's minds, the better. The other thing that we find helpful, if there's a group that's particularly interested and active and they've got a regularly scheduled meeting, a lot of times it's easier for us to go to their meeting rather than to set up a separate meeting and expect them to do that. So that's the sort of thing we're interested in doing. Clearly we expect to have a survey. One of the things we'd like to be able to do is to have walking tours in different neighborhoods, to actually physically get on the ground and walk around in neighborhoods, because there's no substitute for that in terms of our experience in the city and also your own. Sometimes if you live in a place and you use it every day just as a citizen, when you suddenly start having to look at it from the perspective of, I'm on the planning committee now, I need to think about this in a new way, doing that walking tour will show some new insights into what's going on in Kingston and what can be included or addressed in the plan. The other thing that I've been thinking about that might be something worth including is, I've called it Kingston 3.0, but this is a community that takes great pride in the growing digital media community. And I think it would be a useful exercise to see, can we tap into that community, to engage them in this process, to help disseminate information about the plan, to help shape what the discourse is, and to reach out and get more people involved and generate new ideas about Kingston. This is something we can talk about further, but I think there's a resource here that we might see if we can energize it and engage it, because it will also, if this initiative goes forward and is effective, it helps define Kingston in a new way as well. Because the whole idea of digital media is something that's been kicking around in Kingston for almost 20 years now. And there might be an opportunity to use this plan to explore that and to incorporate the ideas and requirements of that new type of industry into the planning process itself. And the other thing, the other opportunity is, sort of the future of the city is sort of right across the street here. And I think there are opportunities with the school right in the middle of the city to have efforts to engage the school students in the planning process. It's a difficult thing to do, but I think proximity suggests it might be worth trying to reach out to the school and say, all right, can we do sessions with the students? Are there things the students can do in terms of information gathering that would give them a sense of what's happening, what the future might hold for them, and what their role could be in the community? The next step in the process is actually putting together the comprehensive plan with goals and recommendations. What we'd like to do is, if it's at all possible, is put together even one or a series of a few, maybe 3 or 4 graphics that provide, here's the approach that this plan is recommending. Here's the vision. And to try to do it in a series of graphics so it's pretty clear about here are the major issues and here's how we're responding to them. It helps communicate it out to the public to get comment. It also provides a vehicle for people to remember what it is we're doing and what we hope to accomplish. I mean, that's increasingly important in our work, is the extent to which you can create a memorable image or graphic that's associated with the plan. It gives it life. It helps it live. If people can articulate in 3 sentences what this plan is about because of some striking image or icon that we can include in the planning process, that's really important, and that's something we look to do in all of these efforts. So we put together the plan with the recommendations. We have the review, not only by the committee, but by the public, and online and in person. Then we finalize the goals and the draft comprehensive plan. There's a formal committee review and 2 community meetings. And then finalize the comprehensive plan, go through the seeker compliance, the county planning board reviews, etc., and then adoption by the Common Council, and the final comprehensive plan and secret process is complete. And that's phase 1. Task 2 is the zoning code updates. So we create a priority list of the zoning updates during the planning process. At the end of the comprehensive plan, there will be a list of the priority zoning issues that we need to address. And then we immediately move into that, put together the draft zoning code proposal, have public information meetings, say, all right, this is the approach we're taking, here are the features and characteristics of the zoning that's recommended, reviewed by the City Common Council, final land use code for the zoning update, and then the secret process, public hearing and adoption. And again, we look to do this as indicated in the RFP within about 2.5 years, to do the comprehensive plan in a year, and maybe even less, and then move right to the zoning. I think that the idea here is to really create a comprehensive plan that's clear and compelling. It doesn't necessarily have to be highly detailed, but it should provide the context for the zoning. Because one of the things you need to do is to make sure that you've got the resources to do the follow-on zoning. And it's very easy to lose focus of that and spend more time putting detailed recommendations and work into the plan that would be better off shaping the zoning itself. So the idea is the plan sets the direction, provides the vision, and then the work goes into, the detailed work goes into the zoning revisions themselves. So that's kind of a quick overview of how we'd approach this, what we see the work as, and now we'll just take questions and discussion.